Hello viewers, welcome back to my channel Legal Decipher. In the previous video, we had discussed about the first part of the chapter 4 of Indian Penal Code 1860. If you have not seen that video, you can go and check it. The link is in the description below. In today's video, we're going to discuss about the next part of the chapter 4 of Indian Penal Code. We'll go through the chapter and try to understand the substance therein. So if you are new here, please like and subscribe to my channel so you can get the video notifications. So let's get started. So today we are going to discuss about the next part of the chapter 4 of the Indian Penal Code. So in the previous video we had discussed about section 76 to section 95. In this video we are going to cover the rest of the sections, that is section 96 to section 106. Now this portion talks about the right of private defense. So a person has the right of a private defense when he is attacked by any other person with criminal intention. So a person can exercise this right of private defense, and that would be acknowledged by the Indian Penal Code as an exception to anything that such person does with the intention of private defense. That means to save himself from the harm that is inflicted upon him. But that rights should be limited as per the provisions of section 96 to 106. So let's understand this part of the chapter. Section 96 talks about things done in private defense. It says nothing is an offense which is done in the exercise of the right of private defense. So it basically says that a person has the right of private defense against anything to save his body or property. So he has the right to exercise private defense, and that would not be considered as an offense under the Indian Penal Code. Now section 97 says that the right of private defense of the body and of the property. So every person has a right subject to the restrictions contained in section 99. So section 99 are the limitations up to what extent such person can exercise such right of private defense. But section 97 says that keeping in mind those restrictions that are provided in section 99, every person would have the right to defend firstly his own body and the body of any other person against any offense affecting the human body. So he can prevent his own body from getting inflicted to any kind of harm, or he can save any other person's body, so that any offense that would affect the human body, that means his own body or the body of any other person, he can prevent that. He has the right of such private defense. And secondly, the property, whether movable or immovable, of himself of any other person. So either that property belongs to himself or it belongs to any other person. Either that property is movable or it is immovable, it doesn't matter. That person has the right to protect the property from any kind of harm that is intended to inflict upon that property. Now, against any act which is an offense. So this right extends to what kind of acts? Those acts which are considered as offense, falling under the definition of theft, robbery, mischief, or criminal trespass, or which is an attempt to commit any of these crimes. So against the commission or the attempt of any of those crimes that are mentioned here, that is theft, robbery, mischief, or criminal trespass, the person has the right to defend either his own property or the property of any other person, whether movable or immovable. Now let's move on to section 98. It says right to private defense against the act of a person of unsound mind, etc. So when an act which would otherwise be a certain offense is not that offense, by reason of the youth, the want of maturity of understanding, the unsoundness of mind, or the intoxication of the person doing that act. So first understand that this act is generally considered as an offense, but whoever is committing that act that is to be considered as an offense, whoever is committing that act is either by the reason of his youth or by the reason of his want of maturity of understanding. He is incapable to understand because he does not have that maturity, or because he is so young that he does not have the idea that whether this act would be considered as an offense, or he is an unsound person, that means his mind is unsound, he does not know the consequences, or he is intoxicated. He is so intoxicated that he does not understand that this act that he is performing is falling under the purview of a certain kind of offense. Then if such act is done by any of these persons that are mentioned here, or by reason of any misconception of the part of that person, so whoever commits that act that is to be considered as an offense, he is under any kind of misconception. Every person has the same right of private defense against that act which he would have if the act were that offense. So whether that was an offense or it is not considered as an offense because of these situations, then it does not matter. A general person would have the same right of private defense against any of such act which you would have if that act was an offense by itself. So whether that was done by a mature person who knows all the consequences, who knows that such act is an offense or not. So doesn't matter whether such act is performed by a youth or by a person of unsound mind or by an intoxicated person or by any mature person who knows and understands the consequences. Doesn't change the matter that a person will have the right of private defense in every of such occasions. He will have the right to defend his body and his property and the bodies and properties of other persons. So that is what section 98 talks about. Now if we need to understand this by a simple example, then we may say that a person who is being killed by the madness of an unsound mind or intoxicated person, say for example the person is intoxicated, he is under the influence of alcohol or any other drug, or he is an unsound person. Now in a sudden madness, this person who is of unsound mind or who is intoxicated, he tries to kill a person without understanding the consequences of his act. So he is totally unable to understand the consequence of his act. But that person who is being killed will always have the right to private defense. So this is a simple example to understand section 98. Now let's move on to section 99. It says acts against which there is no right of private defense. So there are certain acts as well where there is no right of private defense. So let's understand this section. This is very important. It says there is no right of private defense against an act which does not reasonably cause the apprehension of death or of grievous hurt, if done or attempted to be done by a public servant acting in good faith under color of his office, though that act may not be strictly justifiable by law. So it says that basically the right of private defense would be exercised only in imminent danger of fear to life. When there is an imminent danger or fear to the life generates, then only such right of private defense would be applicable. Or there is a very like situation that death or grievous hurt would happen if he does not defend himself. So if a person understands that if I do not defend myself, then I might face death or grievous hurt, then in that case only he would have the right to private defense. But if a public servant is following his duty and he does any act under the execution of his duty that he was bound to do, then in that case the act of private defense would not be entertained. So that will not be entertained. And if that act is specially done in good faith, then there is no chance of private defense. Now, there is no right of private defense against an act which does not reasonably cause the apprehension of death or grievous hurt. Like I was saying, that it needs to have a serious apprehension of death or grievous hurt. Otherwise, it would not be reasonable to exercise private defense. So, there must be a situation where if right of private defense is not attempted, then there is an imminent danger of death or grievous hurt. So, if it is done or attempted to be done by the direction of a public servant acting in good faith under the color of his office, though that direction may not be strictly justifiable by law, then also the right of private defense won't be exercised. The right of private defense would only be exercised in case of fear of or serious apprehension of death or grievous hurt. Now, there is no right of private defense in cases in which there is time to have recourse to protection of the public authorities. So, say for example, a person is chased by a number of goons. Now, that person could have escaped, but he started to fight with those goons and he eventually killed them, even when they were almost tackled with. So, that would be a excessive use of brute force. That would not be counted under right of private defense. So, if that person had the opportunity to escape that situation and seek the assistance of any public servant, say for example the police personnel, he could have easily escaped the place and he could have run to the police station and he could have asked for police assistance. So, if he had done that, that would be justifiable. But if he had the opportunity but he did not exercise it, he started fighting those people and he eventually killed them, and now he is taking the plea that I was exercising my right to private defense, then that would not be justifiable. Now, extent to which the right may be exercised. It says the right of private defense in no case extends to the inflicting of more harm than it is necessary to inflict for the purpose of defense. So, how much force or how much harm can one person inflict by exercising the right of private defense? We need to understand this. The Indian Penal Code allows a person who is exercising his right of private defense that you will only inflict that much harm that is necessary for the purpose of defense, not more than that. So, no excessive use of force can be applied. The person can only inflict that much harm that is necessary for the purpose of defense. Now, the explanation says that a person is not deprived of the right of private defense against an act done or attempted to be done by a public servant as such unless he knows or has reasons to believe that the person doing the act is such public servant. So, say for example, a public servant, that is a police personnel, is in a civil dress. He is not wearing the uniform. So, now under that civil dress, he approaches a person, exercises his duty, which he was bound to do. Now, this person does not understand that the person who is trying to apprehend him is a police personnel, because he is not wearing a uniform. This person is not supposed to know who that person is. Say for example, that police personnel has not even shown his ID, that he belongs from the police authority. Now, this person knows that he has a right of private defense. He starts exercising it. So, that would not be unjustifiable. He would not be deprived of his right of private defense against an act done or attempted to be done by a public servant unless he knows or has reasons to believe that such person doing the act is such public servant. So, as long as the person does not know that this is a public servant, he is trying to exercise his duty, or he did not have any reason to believe that this person could be a police personnel or a public servant, then unless he knows, up to that point of time he would be rightfully exercising his right of private defense. But as soon as he understands or knows that this person who is trying to apprehend me is a public servant or a police personnel, then he from that moment of time would not be exercising his right of private defense, because that person, that public servant, is exercising his duty which he was bound to do by law. Now this person would then and there have to stop exercising his right of private defense. Now explanation 2 says that a person is not deprived of the right of private defense against an act done or attempted to be done by the direction of a public servant unless he knows or has reasons to believe that the person doing the act is acting by such direction, or unless such person states the authority under which he acts, or he has authority in writing unless he produces such authority if demanded. So it also says that such person would not be deprived of his right of private defense against anything that is done by the public servant unless he knows or has reasons to believe that the person who is acting under a direction, who is exercising his duty, is under such authority, and that authority has been given to him in writing, or he has produced such authority on demand, that yes, I have the authority to exercise this duty upon you. Say for example, I have a arrest warrant, I am here to arrest you. So unless he does not inform that person about such warrant, or unless he shows any valid reason to apprehend him, this person would have the right of private defense if he thinks that the public servant is acting beyond his jurisdiction. Now section 100 says that when the right of private defense of the body extends to causing death, this is a very, very, very important section. We need to properly understand this. Section 100 talks about those situations where the private defense of one's body could extend to causing death. That means when would a person kill another person, that means cause death, by exercising his right of private defense. This is a very serious and important section, that is section 100. It says the right of private defense of the body extends, so that means a person is defending his body, exercising his right of private defense, and that would cause death to another person. So it says that under the restrictions mentioned in the last preceding sections, the restrictions that we have read in the previous sections would apply also here. That means that person who is exercising his right of private defense would not exercise any more of his right than needed, and within that, if that person had to cause death in order to defend himself, then what would be the situations? That is discussed here. It says that right of private defense would extend to voluntarily causing of death or any other harm to the assailant if the offense which occasions the exercise of the right be of any of the descriptions herein under enumerated. So when only these situations that are written here, if only these situations occur, then only the right of private defense would extend to causing death, notwithstanding those limitations that are mentioned in the previous sections. So what are these situations? They are firstly such an assault as may reasonably cause the apprehension that death will otherwise be the consequence of such assault. So when the person clearly understands that if I do not restrict this person who is trying to attack me, that person will clearly take my life. Say for example, that person is aiming a gun at this person. That means this person who is exercising the right of private defense is at gunpoint, and he understands that the gun is loaded, and this person is showing such kind of attitude that he will not even hesitate before shooting this man who is about to exercise his right of private defense, and this man will die. He understands that I will die by that gunshot if I do not exercise my right of private defense. So, in that kind of serious situation. Secondly, such an assault as may reasonably cause the apprehension that grievous hurt will otherwise be the consequence of such assault. So, if I do not restrict this person would inflict grievous hurt upon me. That means he will permanently do a certain amount of damage to me that won't be recoverable. Thirdly, an assault with the intention of committing rape. So if a woman is facing a serious threat that if I do not exercise my right of private defense, then there is an imminent danger that this person who is attacking me would commit rape on me. Now, fourthly, an assault with the intention of gratifying unnatural lust. So, if a person is trying to exercise unnatural lust, then that assault can be defended with the right of private defense. And an assault with the intention of kidnapping or abducting. So, if a person is trying to kidnap or abduct any other person, then that person who is about to get kidnapped or abducted, that person would have the right of private defense that would extend up to this amount. Now, the next one is an assault with the intention of wrongfully confining a person under circumstances which may reasonably cause him to apprehend that he will be unable to have recourse to the public authorities for his release. Say, for example, that person is confined in a certain place from where he cannot get out of, from where he cannot contact any person, where he knows that he will be confined and no one will come to save him because nobody knows. He does not have the access to public authorities for his release. Say, for example, he has been kidnapped by a gang of robbers or dacoits or goons. Then this person will have that right of private defense. And in cases where an act throwing or administering of acid or an attempt to throw or administer acids, that means an acid attack, which may reasonably cause the apprehension that grievous hurt will otherwise be the consequence of such act. Say, for example, any person is thrown acid upon, any woman or any person upon whom acid has been thrown or is about to be thrown. That person is in serious apprehension that if I do not exercise my right of private defense, then this acid would permanently disfigure me or do any other harm. It might kill him as well. So that person would have the right of private defense. And that right of private defense may extend to death even. But that person must also keep this in mind that if such person who is trying to inflict these kinds of harms that are mentioned in these 7 points, if that person may be otherwise dealt with, he may be otherwise subdued and death does not need to occur, then such person won't have the right to inflict death upon that person. That we have known from the starting paragraph of this section. It says, considering all those limitations that are mentioned in the previous sections. The previous sections had mentioned and taught us you cannot exercise excess force in your right of private defense. Whatever is needed, you can exercise. You cannot exercise more than that, which is not needed. Once you have subdued that person, that is enough. Once you can escape from that place and approach a local authority or a police personnel or a public servant, that is enough. But where there is no other way, you are cornered and there is a serious and imminent danger of any of these things that are mentioned in these 7 points, and that person is trying to inflict that harm upon you, and you have no other choice but to fight with him. And in due course, when you are trying to exercise your right of private defense, that person who is trying to harm you gets killed, then that would be justified. But you cannot, and I hammer upon this point, you cannot inflict more than that harm that is needed for the right of private defense. No excess amount of force can be exercised while applying the right of private defense. That is the only thing that a person who is exercising a right of private defense should keep in his mind while exercising it. Now let's move on to section 101 that says when such right extends to causing any harm other than death. So till now we have read about those conditions where the person who was exercising his right of private defense could cause death. Now where that person who is exercising the right of private defense can cause any other harm but not death. So those are the conditions that are mentioned in section 101. It says if the offense be not of any of the descriptions enumerated in the last preceding section. So the amount of danger that is inflicted upon a person is not any of those kinds that were mentioned in those 7 points in the preceding section, that is section 100. But it is any other kind of harm or danger. Then in that case, the right of private defense of the body does not extend to voluntarily causing of death to the assailant. You cannot cause death to the assailant, but does extend under the restrictions mentioned in section 19. So section 19 is very important. You have to understand the restrictions. Whether if you can escape that situation, you have to escape. Whether you have subdued that person who is trying to attack you, then that is okay. You cannot exercise more force than that. But always you have to keep the restrictions mentioned in section 99 in your mind while exercising right of private defense. Other than that, if you need to hurt that person in order to save yourself, then voluntarily causing of any such harm that is not death, any other harm can be inflicted upon that person who is trying to attack you. You can exercise your right of private defense and inflict such other harm upon that person. Now section 102 says commencement and continuance of the right of private defense of the body. It says the right of private defense of the body commences as soon as a reasonable apprehension of danger to the body arises. So a general person would have a question in his mind that when will my right of private defense start to accrue? That means when shall I understand that yes, this is the right time to exercise my right of private defense? When does that time to exercise my right of defense start? So it starts right from that moment when a reasonable apprehension of danger to the body arises. Say for example, some person has approached you and he has said that I want to kill you. Now he has only uttered some mere words. That does not necessarily or reasonably make you apprehend that you have a serious danger to your body, unless that person pulls out arms or any other kind of sharp object. Say for example, he pulls out a gun or he pulls out a knife, and from that very moment you start to understand by the gesture of that person, by the body language of that person, and whatever he is uttering, whatever he is saying, that yes, I will kill you, and he has actually drawn up a weapon. Now you start to reasonably apprehend that yes, I may have a serious danger to my body. This person may actually kill me. He is about to start inflicting any harm. So the right of private defense will start from that very point. From that very point of time, you may start apprehending that yes, now I have a serious apprehension of danger to my body, and now I can exercise my right to private defense. And it continues as long as such apprehension of danger to the body continues. So as long as he is uttering those words that yes, I will kill you, and as long as he is holding that weapon, and as long as he is threatening you, during the entire time, that apprehension of danger to the body will continue. But as soon as that person has kept the object or weapon back in his pocket, or he has calmed down, or you understand that no, this person won't try to harm me anymore. So from that very moment of time, that apprehension to the danger to the body will stop. And from that moment, you won't have any right to private defense anymore. So this is how you would measure the commencement and the continuance of your right to private defense to your body or any other one's body. That is what section 102 says. Now, section 103 talks about when the right of private defense of property extends to causing death. So, section 100 mentioned those points where the right to private defense may cause death when the person is facing any serious danger to his body. Now, section 103 says where that right of private defense would extend to causing death when the property is in danger, not the body. The body is covered by section 100. Section 103 covers the property. When your property is in danger and you have the right to cause death by exercising your right to private defense. It says the right of private defense of property extends under the restrictions mentioned in section 99. So, as we all know, the restrictions of section 99 will always be followed. But keeping those restrictions in mind, if there is a voluntarily causing of death to any harm that is to be inflicted by the wrongdoer, it will be exercised in those offences the committing of which or the attempting to commit which occasions the exercise of right of private defense that may extend to cause death in the following situations. Now we will move on to the definitions of these crimes as we move along with the chapters of the Indian Penal Code. These are defined in the later sections of the IPC, keeping the restrictions in mind of section 99. So whatever you have understood about section 100, this is the same section, but this section only deals with the property. That section 100 dealt with the body, section 103 deals with property. That is the difference. But the entire understanding of both these sections will be the same. There were 7 points where danger was to the body and you had the option to cause death if necessary to the wrongdoer by exercising your right of private defense. In this case, there are 4 points where you can exercise the right of private defense that may cause death. So the first one of that is robbery. If your property is under the danger of robbery or you have an ongoing robbery upon you, you have the right to private defense that may cause death. Secondly, housebreaking by night. So if a particular thug or goon, whoever may be the person, he has broken into your house at night, then you also have the right to private defense that may cause death. Thirdly, mischief by fire committed on any building, tent or vessel, which building, tent or vessel is used as a human dwelling or as a place for the custody of property. So say for example, there is a particular building or a tent or a vessel, and in that building, tent or vessel, some humans dwell. That means it is used for human dwelling. People live there. Or that place is used for custody of property. Say for example, a number of persons or a particular person keeps his property and that place holds the custody of that property. Those properties are kept there, secured there. And that building, tent or vessel that has humans dwelling inside it or that has properties inside it, someone is trying to burn that place by fire. So it says mischief by fire committed upon such building, tent or vessel. In that case, you will also have the right to private defense that may cause death. Now fourthly, it says theft, mischief or house trespass under such circumstances as may reasonably cause apprehension that death or grievous hurt will be the consequence if such right of private defense is not exercised. Say for example, you are at your home and a person is trying to commit theft or he is trying to trespass into your house or committing any other mischief, and when you try to prevent that or apprehend that person, that person draws out a weapon, or anyhow he tries to inflict such an apprehension in your mind that you understand that this situation may get worse and I might get killed. That means you have the apprehension of death, or you may have the apprehension of grievous hurt, that I will be seriously injured by this person. So that kind of imminent threat of death or grievous hurt has been inflicted upon you by that person. In that case, you can exercise your right of private defense to save your property that may extend to death. Now let's move on to section 104. It talks about when such right extends to causing any harm other than death. So section 104 is basically section 101. The only difference is that section 101 talks about inflicting any other harm than death when the person is exercising a right of private defense to save his body. And section 104 talks about those situations where you can cause or inflict any other harm than death when you are exercising your right of private defense to save your property. So that is for the body and this is for the property. That is the only difference between section 101 and section 104. Now it says that if the offense, the committing of which or the attempting to commit which occasions the exercise of the right of private defense be theft, mischief or criminal trespass, not of any of the descriptions enumerated in the last preceding section, that right does not extend to voluntarily causing of death, but does extend, subject to the restrictions mentioned in section 99, to the voluntary causing of the wrongdoer of any harm other than death. So section 99's restrictions would be everywhere. You need to understand that. After keeping those restrictions in your mind, if there is any criminal trespass or mischief or theft to your property, then you have the right to private defense. But if those offenses do not constitute anything that is mentioned in the previous sections, that is section 103, then you will not have the right to cause death by exercising your right of private defense. You can only cause any other harm than death. You can cause any other harm, but only to the extent to subdue that person. Once you have the situation under your control, you will stop exercising your right of defense from that point of time. Now section 105 talks about commencement and continuance of the right of private defense of property. So when will the right to exercise your private defense commence, and until what period of time it will continue? That is mentioned in section 105. The essence of this section is as similar to that of section 102. Whatever we have read in section 102 will also be followed here. It says the right of private defense of property commences when a reasonable apprehension of danger to the property commences. Say for example, you see that person trespassing into your house and he has actually entered your house. Or you see a theft is being committed in your house and that person has actually taken that thing in order to steal it. From that very moment of time, the commencement of your right to private defense will occur, and the continuance of the right of private defense to the property will be there until that person continues to commit that offense. So as long as that person is committing that offense, up to that point of time you have the right to private defense. Whenever that person has escaped your property, that person has moved out of your house, he has actually stepped outside of the territorial boundaries of your property, from that moment of time you will not have the right to private defense. As long as he is in your property, he is committing the trespass, as long as the offense is ongoing, you will have the right to private defense. The right of private defense of property against theft continues till the offender has effected his retreat with the property, or either the assistance of the public authorities is obtained or the property has been recovered. So either you recover the property or you have somehow manage to call the proper authority, the police personnel or any other public authority. That means you have got the assistance of such public authority, or unless the offender has effected his retreat, up to that point of time only, you will be able to exercise your right of private defense. Now, the right of private defense of property against robbery continues as long as the offender causes or attempts to cause any person death or hurt or wrongful restraint, or as long as the fear of instant death or instant hurt or instant personal restraint continues. So, unless the offense is in continuance, you will not have the right to private defense. So, as long as the fear of instant death, wrongful restraint, hurt, or any other personal restraint continues, up to that point of time, you will have the right of private defense. The right of private defense of property against criminal trespass or mischief continues as long as the offender continues in the commission of criminal trespass or mischief. Like I said, as long as he is in your house, as long as he is trespassing, up to that point of time, you will have the right to private defense. Now, what is robbery, theft, criminal trespass, etc.? We will read about all of this in the Indian Penal Code as we move on with it. Now, it says the right of private defense of property against housebreaking by night continues as long as the house trespass which has begun by such housebreaking continues. So, as long that person is in your house, he is trying to break into your house, as long as he keeps on doing the offense, as long as he continues with the offense, up to that point of time, you will have the right to private defense. Now, let's move on to section 106. That is the last section of this entire chapter. It says right of private defense against deadly assault when there is a risk of harm to innocent person. It says, if in the exercise of the right of private defense against an assault which reasonably causes the apprehension of death, the defender be so situated that he cannot effectually exercise that right without risk of harm to an innocent person, his right of private defense extend to the running of that risk. So, section 106 is a very important section. You need to understand this right. It says that if you are faced with an imminent danger that you apprehend, I may get killed. So, there is a apprehension of death and an assault is committed upon you. So, a person is assaulting you and you apprehend death, that I may get killed by this assault, and you are the defender here. Now, you also understand that if I try to exercise my right of private defense against such deadly assault, then I may risk the harm to an innocent person. So, if I exercise the right of private defense, I may injure an innocent person who is in the proximity. Now, what will be your right to private defense? Will you be able to defend yourself, considering that an innocent person will be harmed? There is no other way. He will be harmed if you try to exercise your right of private defense, because he is in such a proximity. Now, will you be able to exercise your private defense? That is the question that section 106 gives the answer of. It says you will have the right to private defense. Let's understand this by an example. Say, for example, if a person is attacked by a mob. So, a person is attacked by a mob who is trying to kill that person. So, there are a number of persons who are running behind you. They are trying to kill you. It is a mob. And that person, in order to save himself, has no other option but to fire at the mob. So, this person has to fire at that mob in order to stop them from killing that person. But there is a consequence to that. What is it? Now, there are children who are mingled within the mob. So, that mob who is chasing that person in order to kill him, that mob has little children in it. They are mixed with that mob. Now, what will happen if this person is to fire to the mob? Now, this person fires to that mob and kills a child accidentally. So, accidentally that bullet that he has fired hits a children who is mingled in that mob, and that child is accidentally killed. That person did not intend to kill the child. He was trying to protect himself from that mob who is trying to kill him. He fired at the mob accidentally that bullet hit a child and that child was killed. Such person who fired to save his life from the mob exercised his right to self defense, that is private defense, and therefore he has done no wrong. So that person has not done any wrong. However, section 99 shall also apply in this case, and reasonable care should be always taken to the most possible extent. That is what section 106 talks about. So that's all in this video. If you like my videos, then don't forget to smash the like button and subscribe to my channel. Thank you so much for watching this video.